Welcome to our 5 questions series.
Thank you.
David, it's great to hear from you, and I wanted to ask you a few questions about your professional life and your use of HPCC.
Sure.
We are
Absolutely.
trying to highlight some of our main community members, and we believe that since you've been involved with the community for so long and you have done
Sure.
so many things for the community, you would be a great person to showcase in this series.
Right. Thank you.
So you've been the Chief Technology Officer and also the founder for CPL Online, and been in technology for a very long time.
Yeah, that's true. Too long.
And yes, too long. Yeah, longer than you'd like to remember, right?
Yes.
So you're a technologist, like most of us, and you got into e-learning as a career. Why? Why did you decide to go into e-learning?
Well, actually, that was actually an accident. I happened to be, I'd been with the company for about 17 years as a database development director, and I'd moved on from there and decided to set up my own business. And I happened to go with one of my new clients. I was building a big CRM platform for, and they were a training company, and just so happens while I was there, they had basically a threat to their business, which was e-learning, which was taking a lot of the face-to-face business away, and had a look at some third-party companies who supplied e-learning and didn't like them very much, so they wanted to build one from scratch. So they, as I was there with my software company, and we got on quite well, they asked me if I fancied doing a joint venture and setting up a new business, and I thought about it for about 3 seconds and then decided to do it, and the rest is history. But I've got no prior knowledge of e-learning. I love software, I love writing. Doesn't matter what industry, it's all about, you know, building the best you can, and with some great tools, and you know, you just see each one as a challenge, not necessarily being, I've never really been industry specific, and worked along oil and finance and marketing and all these things, but it's always been about databases for me.
That is a great story, and many times need creates a driver that is compelling enough to get someone like you into
Sure.
a completely new area, and you
Right.
have certainly succeeded. You have done you have made a career of it, and founded a company and grew the company over the past few years. So how was that experience? So now knowing that it was a little bit of an accident at the beginning, if you now look back, how do you see it? Do you think you succeeded in developing that area and growing in e-learning as a career?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we predominantly work in hospitality, which is such a fun industry to work in. The people are superb. They're very passionate about what they do. They're very inventive. They like to experiment with new ideas and opportunities. So for me, I love problem solving and coming up with solutions to things that nobody can, or people struggle to come up with things for. So for me, that was just approaching e-learning as a whole in a very, very different direction. And with me being a data person, it was always built around data rather than the simplified have you passed or failed. And clients love what we did, and that's why we grew so rapidly, over 100% for the first 4 or 5 years. And just to top that off, in April of this year, the company was acquired by a much larger group called CGA, who do insight and market expertise for the hospitality arena. They do brand and consumer insight and product insight and brand and business insight, but what they don't have is the people insight. So from one of the reasons they've acquired us is because we have that information about how well people are trained, how well people learn, and then adding that onto the brand insight and other market data they have, provides a really, really phenomenal platform. So it was quite scary, but also flattering that we must have done something right if we were acquired. And from that point, I've now become Chief Technology Officer, and I'm staying with the business, so I'm really excited about it.
That is amazing. That is a great story. So that's very interesting that your point of view is always about data, and that engineering mindset as a technologist, and your bias towards data has enabled you to do this. So very early in the day, you decided to look at HPCC, our HP Systems platform. And why did you do that? So what do you think HPCC brought to the table for your business and your technology solution in general?
Right. Okay. So because again we were very adventurous in what we were doing. So instead of holding one row of data for everyone doing a course, we were holding up to 800 or 1,000, because we were tracking every single data point, every answer, every incorrect answer, and all these things. But all that data was used to calculate scores and pass rates for clients. But that's great when you've got 5,000 people on your platform. When it goes up to 300,000-400,000 and you've got all these people logging in, you're trying to use, in our case, SQL Server to configure the database and to look after permissions and record transactions and all these things. And then being asked for much more complicated reporting, we really, really struggled because of sheer weight, volume, flexibility of what we really wanted to do. I mean, SQL just was so prohibitive to us. Not that, obviously you could probably accomplish anything in each language, but the time and effort and the budget and the amount of people it would have taken, and the cost to spin up God knows how many clusters and license fees and everything else. So I just happened to I went to London to see one of your people, Joe Pritchard, was doing a talk at a data science conference. So excuse me, I went to see that, and I was literally blown away by what things could be accomplished with HPCC. Not just the data science, but the visualization. It seemed to have everything. So literally the minute I got back, we went onto the HPCC Systems website, we downloaded the platform, and we started playing just on a few machines. And then very quickly we recognized, certainly from my point of view, ECL was just the language that blew every other language I've ever used. So mainly C# and SQL, but just blew them away in terms of what we could achieve in a much shorter space of time to the level of sophistication that we wanted to do. And actually also because of that was great in the Thor engine, the data refinery, but then you also had the Roxy engine, which was all about delivering super fast queries in the sub-second to as many people as we wanted to do. So once we'd seen that, we immediately embedded HPCC systems into our platform, and all the heavy lifting, so reporting, statistics, queries, data extracts, you name it, was all converted and moved to HPCC systems. Excuse me. So at the same time, it was a budgeting win as well, because I was looking at bringing on probably about 10 SQL guys, and now I've got 3. I've got 3 SQL guys, and there's 3 HPCC guys, and that was a budget for 5 years ago. So we've still managed to keep it pretty much where it is. We've got more visualization guys now, but to this day, that HPCC is at the heart of our platform and does all the heavy lifting.
That is a very cool story. So now, surely ECL seems to have been an important factor to decide to go with HPCC. If you were able to get a wish done on HPCC, what would you like HPCC to do? What's your wish for the roadmap? What should come to help you?
Well, I think there's probably a couple of things, really. I think from a language point of view, I think it's so easy to get everything done in HPCC, but you're always looking in ECL Watch about, what's that query time, what's that graph look like, have I got the right join in there, have I made some silly mistake? I think for me, a bit more intelligence on providing some suggestions for coding fixes or anything. You do get some basic ones, but certainly I think the more you delve into the language, obviously the more you find. But there's so much there; it's quite hard sometimes to get it right. It can still, you can still have a great query that runs that maybe takes 2 seconds, but you could get it down to a few milliseconds. But so maybe some more help there. I'm really excited about Visual Studio Code, and hopefully I've had a play around with that library. So I'm excited about that. I love being able to code ECL on my Mac, and I'd probably drop Windows altogether once we're there. But so I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see what you guys are going to do in the future in that sense. And then lastly, I think I think ingesting data is huge and can be problematic, certainly with synchronizing with, for us, it's all about synchronizing with a SQL Server database, which we do on some of them half hourly, some of them on hourly. I think integration into things like change tracking or, not for real-time updates, but for periodic updates, I think just looking at it from our point of view, you have to write a lot. We've had to go through a lot of code to make that sync happen. It's not always easy to do. You have to choose whether you do a full replace of a table or you do an incremental addition or append to the table. But I think from my point of view, no matter how it's transported to HPCC, I think I know for a fact that would save a huge amount of time and effort excuse me, on the data ingestion. Certainly when you've got a standardized platform that we're ingesting into every hour or so, you want to make that as small as possible. So maybe there's something there I just haven't seen, but that's something I'll be looking forward to trying to find out at the conference this year and seeing if there's better ways of doing it, or can we do it better? And that's the beauty of the conference. It's this community that you have with HPCC, which is just second to none. And I feel quite comfortable I'll go out and either find an answer or somebody will, tell me an alternative. And you don't get that anywhere else. You don't get to talk to the people who build the platform.
Those are very good ideas. I really like them, making the platform more usable, and that has been a little bit of a part of the roadmap for the past 2 years or so.
Sure.
To improve usability on the application building side of things.
Sure.
But I like the idea of a little bit of a better hand holding on the users. Surely you can get the same result done in different ways, but maybe one way gets it done in a few milliseconds, and another way gets it done in a few seconds, and that's that's a big difference.
Yes, and when you're doing 100,000 transactions or query results a day, it makes a huge difference, of how many nodes or how much hardware you're going to throw at HPCC. So it's these little things. They all make a huge difference. It's just something we're always trying to look at. But there's so many super smart people there. You just think, maybe they'll come up with a tool that will do that, and that could really help. One of the other things I'd like to see a lot more often, I think it's been quite sparse, is like a weekly tips and helpful tips and hints. So from some of the guys, certainly from some of the experts, about just saying, look, here's a common problem. And I appreciate my common problems might not be the same as everybody else's. As I say, you've got some super smart people there, but I'm one of these users. Yes, I'm running a business, but I'm also spending 50% of the time coding. I think, for me, I don't have time to I don't do this all day, every day, no matter how much I'd like to. So, that's something I would see every day. Microsoft has Channel 9, and they have a video site where they're giving users, overviews, tips, hints about different topics, and it's certainly something I think would be a huge benefit, and I think a lot of the community would watch that in real world scenarios. It's, the documentation is great, but seeing some helpful tips in the real world would be, I think, massive, and I would be very interested in that.
I agree, yeah. So just to wrap up this session, what has been your greatest reward as the CTO of CPL Online? What do you think has been your greatest success?
I think having the flexibility and a tool set around us that has allowed us to build this business. We've got 2 partners, and we just to put that in context, we do pretty much every line of code in-house. We don't use contractors. We don't use third parties. We've been very, very careful about who we choose. So we've got Microsoft Azure on one hand, or Azure, on one hand, where we do all of our hosting for platform as a service or software as a service for database, for websites, you name it, and tracking. And then the only other partner is HPCC Systems. And those 2, I've never been one for having thousands of third parties out there, but there's 2 partners we can trust to build a business, to reliably run the business, and to make it good fun. I mean, for me personally, I've been lucky enough that I could pick how much time I could spend developing and writing code. The code I'd spend 99.9% writing ECL. I've been lucky enough to probably do about 35-40% maybe of my time is coding ECL, and I loved every second of it. And to be able to, even someone like me, to be able to jump in and code with the rest of them and just come up with solutions is just, it makes me smile every day, put it that way.
That is beautiful. David, that is great. So thank you very much for being here, and as usual, this is a pleasure, always a pleasure.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you.
And I hopefully see you soon.
Of course. Thank you.
All right. Take care.